And hello, hello, hello. Did anybody hear me? Alright, is everything working? Everything working. Let me know if there's lag. Because that's what I'm trying to fight against right now. Whoop! Well, you're not supposed to be open. You're supposed to be closed. Haha! Okay, so got this here. Got that there. That looks all good. Looks good. I don't have anything saying blah 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 4 seconds. Okay, everything looks green, so green is good. Okay, so far so good. Everything looks still green, hopefully. Okay. I'll move that down just a bit. Well, not that far down, never mind. There we go, that works. Okay, I am going to continue. If you guys did enjoy the other video, and that video is basically without me stuttering on a lot of words, I try to fix everything. But I do want to basically stream this for you guys, and I'm sorry, it's so late in the time to do it. So if I start yawning, I apologize. I don't like my yawns, but they come out. I'm sorry. So, without any further ado, let's just jump into it, shall we? I held Erik close to me, listening to his heartbeat. The simple syncopation of it filled my own heart with such joy that I could not deny the smile on my face from stretching further. Whatever held me for so long no longer had hold of my mind and my body, allowing my heart to once again guide my action. And god damn me for screwing up already. As I slept, however, a voice I had not heard in a while reappeared.
Why? Why did you do that?
Huh? Within the darkness of my dreams appeared a familiar purple orb, floating in the vast space. I felt once again charmed by it. But I was more confused as to why it was in my dream, and why it had asked me such a question.
Why would you do that?
Do what? What are you doing here?
I don't understand.
What are you doing here? I had to repeat myself. The orb didn't move or change, but something about looking at it made me feel unsure. Why was the spirit haunting me?
I don't understand why you like him.
Why I like Erik? Wait, was the spirit the reason why I was aggressive to Erik? I glared at the orb, suddenly putting 2 and 2 together. You were the one who made me act so cruel towards him.
He's icky. He's an icky man.
He is the man I love! I loved him dearly and didn't want to treat him like I did. If I was being forced, then I needed to stop the one who was forcing me.
Loving a person doesn't make them less icky.
This is definitely a kid. What is so icky about him?
He talks funny. He he keeps touching you. He has those...
Sex eyes?
Yeah, he's so icky. Icky!
I'm not as disgusting as you make me out to be, Spirit.
My heart jumped at the sound of Eric's voice. In front of me appeared a reddish shadow, which quickly formed itself into Erik. The orb seemed to pulsate at the sight of him.
Icky man.
My name is Erik, and you are not welcome in my princess's dreams or her body.
You're not either.
Erik! Erik looked back to me and smiled before stepping forward, making the orb back away a bit. I couldn't tell if it was in fear or anger, but the pulsing energy around the orb seemed to become larger at Erik's stare.
My duty is to protect my princess from anything that threatens her. You, rogue spirit, are considered a threat.
All you do is touch her and take her energy.
That's not true.
What else does the icky man do?
I opened my mouth to retort back, but suddenly froze, feeling my thoughts escape me. For some reason, I couldn't remember anything else Erik had done except for what the spirit said. Uh-oh, that's not good. He would kiss me, hold me, and take my energy. This was wrong. Something was definitely wrong. Why couldn't I pin down more things Erik did for me? I held my head and shut my eyes, trying to focus harder on my thoughts. Erik, however, stepped towards the orb, a group of ethereal tendrils emerging from his back. Did I say that right? Tendrils emerging from his back.
That's enough. You don't belong here, spirit.
I expected the spirit to fight back, but it didn't say anything more. After a moment of silence, the spirit faded into the darkness of the dream. And to answer that, I'm going to be streaming for an hour, so we'll see. We'll see. Erik and I both let out a small sigh of relief.
Are you okay?
Yes. We're gonna say, yes I am! Yes I am. Erik nodded before wrapping his arms around me.
I swear that I will keep you safe.
The words Erik spoke resounded in my chest, making me feel light and believe every word that escaped his lips. I felt safe enough to hear his determination. Still, I couldn't help but feel a small restlessness in my body, despite being in a dream. I thought that sleeping would help my anxiety. I thought that sleeping would help my anxiousness at the situation I was in, but it only made me more worried. With this new fear in my mind, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to hold out until we defeated the Demon Lord. A spirit was really actually haunting my thoughts. This was insane, to say the least. Still, the spirit was quelled for now, at least until we found a way to expel it from my body. I woke that morning before Erik, physically refreshed but mentally troubled. The event that ran through my dreams both bewildered me and scared me. How long was the spirit going to be stuck to me? A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts and woke Erik.
Who's there?
It's us. We brought food.
Can we come in?
Huh? Sure. The thought of food made me relax a bit and forget about the circumstances I was under. The door opened to reveal the other incubi and their wives holding plates of food. James and Iridessa, however, each carried 2 full plates, passing one to me and Erik.
Oh, well, thank you, James.
Yes. Thanks. Or in another way, yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. You'll never guess who prepared it, though.
My mind instantly went to Matthew or James. They were usually the ones who made food when they lived in my house. Still, it could have been Damien as well. But then my mind cycled to the rebel leader and Diana. We were in their castle as their guests, so it would make sense if they made us food. Looking down at my plate, I noted the selection of food: fruit slices, bread, cheese, and some form of meat jerky. It seemed native to the demon world, but it was indeed human food. Using process of elimination, I decided that it was probably Diana.
How did you both sleep? Our rooms are on the opposite end of the hall, so we didn't know how you two were doing.
Did you two get to catch up?
Oh dear.
Please, Matthew. They obviously did more than catch up. A bit of Twilight Tango? Sensual salsa? I bet he dipped right in.
Oh my god. Oh dear.
Well,
Erik and I looked at each other, ignoring Norin, and out as we thought of the seriousness of the situation. Did we want to tell them what was going on? Let's just explain everything, get it out in the open. And I didn't want Erik to be the one to explain. The spirit was in my body, and it was my problem. I motioned for Erik to eat before turning to the group and starting my explanation. Well, there's something we found at last night. I haven't been in control of myself because of something.
What did you find out?
Wait, you're not saying that... Hey, are you pregnant?
Good God! Erik choked. I quickly turned my head to see Erik covering his mouth and coughing almost violently, most likely trying not to suffocate on the food in his mouth. He quickly swallowed his food and smiled painfully at the group.
no. She is not pregnant.
Erik was right. This was a whole different matter. For a second, I wondered what Erik thought about that question. But more importantly, we needed to let the group know what was going on.
Is having a child that bad?
The room around me seemed to freeze as the spirit's voice appeared in the air. I looked around and noticed that everyone, including Erik, was still... What?
The icky man doesn't think so.
What do you mean? In the middle of the room, the spirit appeared, making me gasp. It floated over to Erik and spun around his head, making him light up slightly.
Well, if she were pregnant, I'd be able to expand my legacy.
That doesn't make me happy. Erik? Was that really what he was thinking? He wanted children to expand? No. No, this was a trick. I glared at the orb as it finally moved back to the center of the room. You're lying to me. Whatever you're trying to do won't work.
I'm not doing anything. Just look at him.
Hello, Seduce. I have done Sam. He's actually in my videos. He was the first one I did. I did wanting to prove the spirit wrong. However, my eyes couldn't lie to me. He had a nervous, almost pondering smile on his face, as if he was keeping quiet about his thoughts. Were the thoughts I heard really Erik?
He's an icky man.
Would you stop saying that?
It's true. He wants to make babies with you. You heard so yourself.
He didn't say that. But in a way, he did. Expand his legacy. Who says that? Then again, the look his face couldn't lie to me. The more I gazed into the eyes, the more I could see a form of disappointment. Was I overthinking it?
He keeps touching you and trying to make you feel good. He wants to make you have his babies.
I'm not gonna say anything this time around. I didn't know what to say truly. I couldn't exactly lie and say that I wasn't somewhat convinced of what I was shown. Still, I wanted to trust in Erik, and we still needed to fix the spirit haunting issue. I looked at the floating orb, seeing it bob up and down in place. So how long do you plan on sticking around?
Sticking around?
How long do you plan on being in my body?
Oh. I don't know.
It didn't know? I wanted to stand up, but I felt my body stay in its place. I guess in whatever phase the spirit had me in, I could only shift my head, but not move from my spot. That only proved that this was in my head. Good God. Stumble right through it. You don't know.
I don't know.
How do you not know?
I just don't. I tried, but I can't get out.
This was proving to be useless. A childlike and innocent sounding the spirit was. This conversation was obviously going to go nowhere. I sighed and lowered my head and closing my eyes.
I was trapped when I died too, you know?
Huh? I looked up at the spirit, suddenly curious. They were trapped when they died? As the world began to move again around me, the orb vanished without a trace.
We have a different issue. My princess is being haunted by a spirit.
A spirit? I can't hear its thoughts.
You can't catch everything, Damien. That doesn't make sense. If a spirit's inside of her body, we would have sensed it.
That's the odd part. There's someone within her, but they are not powerful enough to be pinned down. It's as if...
It's a child.
Yes. How did you know?
Spirits of children are extremely versatile, miss. They are smaller and less noticeable than a regular spirit, but their emotions run just as high, if not higher, making them more powerful.
So a child made you fight Erik?
Yes. It also called Erik the Icky Man.
Well, you were for a long time, dude. You can't deny that.
That was before I met my princess.
I looked at Erik as he looked back to me. His eyes were full of love and appreciation as he smiled down at me, making a small blush run across my cheeks. Erik gently lifted his hand and caressed my cheek, making my face warm up at his touch.
You changed me for the better and turned me into a proper man. I would never wish for you to feel that I am disgusting.
Erik. Kiss his cheek. Erik was so sweet to think of me. I loved him for everything that he was and is. He was occasionally perverted and seductive now and then, but that was part of the charm I fell for. He was still my Erik. As I kissed his cheek, Erik gasped, and I could feel a quick forming warmth appear on his cheek under my lips. I pulled away and noticed a red tint across his face, but a loving smile still plastered on his expression. Oh my.
Should we leave? They look like they're ready to make those babies now. Ow!
Knock it off, Matthew.
Before anyone could laugh, however, another knock appeared at the door. Who is it?
Diana, dear, may I come in?
Sure. Come in. Hello, Miss Lucky. You are blocking my view. My lovely little video stopper. As Diana entered the room, became silent. Her guard, Sarah, followed behind. Diana stepped into the room as well, closing the door for her. He remained by the door as Diana looked at my plate.
Did you not enjoy breakfast? I can make you something else if you'd like.
Huh? I quickly looked down at my plate, realizing that I had barely touched the food. I shook my head and looked up at Diana. No, this is great. We were just talking.
I see.
Thank you for breakfast, by the way.
My pleasure. I'm sorry that it's not much, but it's something to fill the stomach.
It's all good. It's better than that stew that everyone else was eating.
We had stew?
Trust me, don't worry about it. You're not missing much.
Indeed. Anyways, I came by to ask you something.
Huh? Ask me what?
What exactly is going on? What was controlling you last night when your husband came around?
Right. Diana still didn't know what happened. Well, we were just talking about that. As I stared at Diana, I felt something inside me grow very happy. Why wouldn't I be? She was feeding us and making sure we were at least comfortable. Hell, she was going to break the curse on me and kill the demon lord. At least, I hoped she would. Still, something felt odd about the way I felt. I shook my head and looked to Erik. He nodded and looked to Diana, causing her attention to turn to him.
A rogue spirit has taken refuge in her body.
A spirit?
How? We felt no such.
It's a child, Diana.
A mere child? What kind of child has that much anger and sadness that they can control the human body?
My lady, if I may.
Everyone in the room, myself included, looked at Cyril, who had stepped forward by Diana's side. Diana took a moment to watch Cyril, measuring his intentions before nodding and stepping back. With a nod, Cyril turned away from her and looked to me. Sarah stepped once more in my direction before bringing his spear up and pointing it at me. What? Whoa!
What are you doing?
Without answering, Sarah continued to stare at me intensively. The spear in his hand began to glow bright gold and white color, making me that much more concerned. Hello! There, Kimberly.
Sanctus et husexiamentes!
Before anyone could jump at Sarah, the guard leaned forward merely an inch towards me, pressing the spear closer to my body. However, it was stopped by a bright white magic barrier that suddenly formed around my body, and the sound of a child screaming. The cry rang violently in my head, causing me to grip my head in pain. Yeah!
Princess!
Erik reached for me, but found himself pressing against the shield as well, unable to get close to me. The sharp tip of Sarah's spear pressed against the barrier, causing white ripples to wave from it. Sarah pushed the spear harder, trying to pierce through. The screaming, however, intensified in my head with each push.
What in the seven hells? I've never seen magic like that before.
I can hear it. The spirit is crying inside her head. It's hurting her.
Damn it!
Sarah finally pulled back and stepped away from me. The glow around his spear vanished, and Sarah looked to Diana. The screaming in my mind stopped at last, and the barrier finally vanished, allowing Erik to wrap his arms around me and pull me close to him.
This spirit is extremely powerful, my lady. Powerful enough to block holy magic.
That's impossible.
I quivered in Erik's embrace, feeling the after effects of the sudden event hit my body like a wave. My nerves were vibrating, and every hair on my body was on edge. My eyes, despite this, looked to Diana and Sarah. Diana looked at me and suddenly glared.
Clever spirit.
Clever spirit? What do you mean?
Look at who the spirit is haunting. She's practically bleeding endless waves of energy. The spirit must be consuming it to survive and use its abilities.
The entire room looked to me, and I could see it in their eyes that she was right. Was I really that full of energy? What kind of energy? How did the amount of energy I had affect this?
The spirit is a demon, then?
Only a demon could make a barrier like that.
But a barrier against holy magic? It's unheard of.
Not necessarily. If a demon is powerful enough, they can block holy magic, but it takes a large amount of energy.
We have to find another way to expel it. If holy magic won't work, something else will. Spirits can't bind themselves to living bodies forever.
Yeah. We'll get this spirit out one way or another.
Would we? The spirit was powerful enough to fight back against holy magic, which apparently was powerful on its own. I became nervous once again. Erik, feeling me tense up in his arms, gave my body a small squeeze in comfort. I closed my eyes, feeling his warmth slowly but surely calming me down.
Whatever the case may be, I'm sure we've at least weakened it. It shouldn't attempt to control you again, at least for today.
Thank you. Diana ran a hand through her hair and looked around the room, pressing her lips into a fine line.
So, about all of you participating in the war, you all obviously need to train.
Everyone nodded in agreement to Diana's statement. While we weren't battle ready, we still needed to at least know how to defend ourselves. Diana, however, looked to me.
You, most of all.
Huh? Me? I was suddenly confused. How come I was the odd one out that had to be ready the most? The last thing I remembered about me training was that Diana was against the idea altogether. Have a good day, Fire Girl 1-4. Diana sighed and rubbed her temple.
Apparently, there are guidelines to breaking this curse. Not only do we have to kill the Demon Lord, but you have to be nearby when it happens for the curse to even break.
That makes no sense! Where did you learn this?
Shadow. He spent the night trying to find alternative ways to break your curse. Unfortunately, we didn't find anything of the sort, but we found the guidelines to breaking it.
Well, it still makes no sense.
Even while it doesn't, it's still better to be safe than sorry. I don't want to kill him and then still have you stuck here because of an error.
I could only sigh and take it in. So I had to be there when the Demon Lord fell. Great. Diana waved her hand dismissively through the air, breaking my potential thoughts.
Anyway, we can't have you dying on the way there, and we can't monitor you when we're in battle. You should at least know how to defend yourself. That's why we've come up with a solution.
Huh? What solution?
Simple. The other rebel leaders and Sarah have agreed that if you'd like a trainer to enhance your abilities, you can train with one of them.
I stared, seeing Sarah step forward with a nod.
Each of the leaders is proficient in a different area of magic and battle strategy, good enough for self-defense. I can't speak for the others, but I can assure you that with Sarah's skill and training methods, you will be well prepared by the time the siege arrives.
Sarah nodded and bowed to me slightly. While I was flattered at the idea, did I really need a trainer? I knew Taekwondo, and I at least knew how to defend myself. Demon or not, then again, we were in the demon world, where magic was the norm. And, we're gonna go with that one. Because I have a plan of where I would like to go. Diana ran a hand through her hair, looking to the side as she listed off each leader and their skills.
Sergeant is a brute demon, bred from a nomadic tribe. He most likely teach you the ways of the brute demon, using your fists and speed to keep you alive. Shadow is, by definition, a shadow demon, so he'd probably teach you about dark magic, light manipulation, and assassination. Rabbit is a wild magic-based animal demon, using her animal-focused energy as her weapon. She'd probably teach you how to do the same. Faye? I am honestly not sure. I know they can change their size and use elemental magic as well, but to be honest, I do not know what they would teach you.
And for this time around... Huh, that's strange. That's really strange. I thought Diana was an option in this. I really did. Huh. So, I'm gonna leave it up to the chat. Who should we have to train us this time around? And hello, little Chago. Okay. Diana raised an eyebrow, but nodded. Faye was wild card, so who knew what they would teach me? Still, my curiosity was getting the better of me, and I knew it. I'd try it. With that, Diana turned on her heels and left the room.
Finish eating. Afterwards, you should start training.
Everyone in the room nodded their affirmation as Diana and Sarah left.
Well, it looks like we'll be busy for the next couple of days.
This'll be fun. Man, training's gonna suck.
It'll be worth it, though.
Damien's right.
As we all finished eating, everyone left to either train or do things on their own. I left to start my own work, determined to be prepared for what was to come. The Demon Lord wasn't going to win. I wouldn't let him. I reported to a large grand hall. Apparently it was strictly to be used for Sarah and Diana, but since training me for defense became priority, I was given the room along with my trainer of choice, Faye. I didn't know what made me choose Faye. They were indeed a wild card choice. Who knew what I would learn from them? They were obviously a fairy, but what kind of abilities did fairies have in this world? I could tell that they were nothing like the fairies in fantasy fairy tales, so the idea of learning about them became a tantalizing curiosity within me. As I arrived, I saw Faye flutter about the room, wowed at the space they were given to train me.
Whoa! This room is so huge!
No
Where
shit.
the heck did we get this room? Why did the castle even have this room? Holy crap!
All over already. I giggled and stepped in, watching as the fairy flew it to and fro, from one side of the room to the other, in excitement. Hopefully, they wouldn't be too distracted by the size of the room to train me. Hey, Faye? Faye at last turned to me with a large grin and flew close to me, placing their hand behind their back.
Hiya! You ready to learn some cool tricks from a cool demon like me?
I smiled. I had picked a good trainer. Nodding, I pressed my hands on my hips. Absolutely! I'm ready. Why do I feel like Peter Pan here? Faye grinned before floating over to the far end of the room, cupping their hands together and calling out to me.
Come over here!
I tilted my head, confused a bit, but shrugged and ran forward, eventually stopping at Faye's side. They clapped in applause, with made me a bit more confused, but I bowed to them, amused.
Alrighty. Now, race it to the other side.
Wait, what? Before I could question Faye, they reeled back and zipped across the room towards the far wall. I rushed behind, trying to catch up, but didn't make it in time to beat Faye from touching the wall.
I win!
Because you didn't warn me this was gonna be a race. Faye looked at me confused before rubbing their head.
But this is training. Aren't I supposed to teach you how to be fast and dodgy and stuff?
I suddenly realized what I had gotten myself into. Faye had no idea what they were doing. A figure who was standing in the corner watching the whole event stepped out of the shadows, slightly surprising me as he walked up to Faye.
Boss, I think you should be teaching the human how to defend herself. Just saying.
Faye turned around and flailed their arms at the figure.
Terminus! Don't tell me what to do! I can do this!
Terminus let out a snort with an amused smirk, crossing his arms at his apparent boss and shrugged.
Alright, whatever you say. I was just making a suggestion.
Faye puffed out their cheeks at Terminus. Before turning back to me, I became concerned. Would I be able to learn anything from Faye other than racing? So, should we stay and try or get out of Dodge? New Yorkish. God. Oh my. Stay. Okay, we'll stay. I took a moment to take a deep breath and let it out. Who knew that Faye had it in store? Maybe they teach me how to grow wings or become small. Their abilities could be pretty useful, especially the wings. It could be Music the Derp. She could be drunk 24/7. Woo! Well, I don't really see, like, you know. Well, then again, you never know. Faye pressed a finger to their chin before suddenly getting an idea.
I know! I can teach you a really cool attack!
I suddenly became excited. An attack! I knew the training was meant for my self-defense, but having an offensive attack would prove to be very useful in the war I was essentially about to jump into. Faye grinned at me before turning to the open space and holding their hands out, closing their eyes and focusing their energy. I watched as green orbs slowly appeared before their palms, growing in size until it became the size of a baseball. Well, thank you for choosing me there, Lance. Face opened their eyes and gripped it with both hands, looking at me with a grin.
This is called the thorn bush.
Thorn bush? Faye nodded ecstatically before arching their hands back behind their head and chucking the orb forward into the space. As it impacted the ground, the orb popped like a bubble and released a cloud of green gas that covered a large portion of the floor. The gas quickly began to materialize into a web of thorny branches stretching out over the floor and stopping just before where Faye and I stood. The branches continued to sway in the air as if they were alive. Ooh. Whoa. I kind of like mine better instead of whoa. Ooh. I was absolutely astonished. This seemed like a really cool trap, but was it effective? I turned my gaze to Faye to see them look to Eternalis with a smug expression.
Hey, Eternamus!
Or Eternamus. I got his name wrong because I forgot it. Sorry, dude. I didn't mean to forget your name. With an amused grin and a roll of his eyes, Eternamus summoned his spear and walked forward into the area where the brush had made claim. I watched in curiosity, wondering what the thorn bush would do. Ah! I think I called it brush. Hello there, two melodies. How are you? I guess as the branch closest to Eternamus began to lash out and strike at him, only to be blocked and cut down by his spear. With a concentrated expression, Eternamus began to cut through the bush. the bush. Not the brush, the frickin' bush! Driving it back slowly but surely. While I understood that he knew about how to deflect Faye's trap, it was an interesting spell nonetheless. If anything, it was able to slow down enemies and attack them as I went on. A good distraction. As Eternimus reached the center, he rammed his spear into the spot where the bush sprouted from, causing the branches around him to wither and die, fading into the air like they were never there. Whoa! That was... I think it was pretty cool. What do you guys think? Hello there, Jeanette Weiss. We'll call it pretty cool. I had to admit, it looked really cool, even to the end. It was very effective, and I was going to learn it. Go me. We're gonna learn how to plant and then watch it sprout real fast. Woo! Faye turned and smiled at me, bobbing a bit in the air in excitement.
Isn't it? It's one of my favorite trap spells. What's even cooler is that if you throw it at a person, they'll be covered in thorns and won't be able to fight back.
That was a game changer. I stared at Faye, shocked. It really could do stuff like that. Then again, there wasn't really a good way to test it because none of us wanted to be on the receiving end of that spell. And there were no training dummies in the room. Oh, crap. I had to take their word for it. Faye grinned before crossing their legs and sitting on the air, pondering. Oh, I wanted to learn how to do that. I want to learn how to cross my legs and sit in the air. That'd be so cool.
What else to show you?
Eternimus looked over and shook his head, walking back to his corner.
Make the human try what you just did first before showing us something new.
All right.
Faye looked over at me and waved their hands out into the room, gesturing me to do what they did. It was milady. It was mildly. Sorry, milady. I got mid-lady for somewhere. It was mildly adorable to see them do that, but I shook my thoughts out and focused on trying to replicate what Faye did. I looked at my hands. The first thing I look over at the chat reads, Tinkerbell is drunk. Oh my gosh. I looked at my hands, trying to focus on forming the green orb in my hands. I began to imagine it, hoping it would spark my energy to perform the spell. But I found that imagination wouldn't work, or at least wasn't enough. I glared at the back of my hands, trying to figure it out. Faye floated behind me and looked at me. At my hands as well, tapping their chin. God damn it. Here's your sexual change. Okay, Lance, okay.
Maybe if you squint really hard or something.
Faye? I turned my head to Faye, not wanting to be a bad student, but needing the teacher to actually teach me. Faye floated back and bit, placing their hand in front of them by their chest.
I'm sorry. I mean, it's like...
Like what?
Well, I mean, you're a human, and I don't exactly know if you have magic and stuff, like...
Faye wiggled their arms beside them, frailing a bit before flying around me and scratching their head.
Like, root demons have, like, rage at
Shit.
battle, and then Diana has her ooh-la-la kind of sexual energy, whatever, her powers. But for me, it just comes naturally, you know? I just think about it, and poof, it happens. But I'm a demon, so it's supposed to happen.
I nodded, understanding what they meant. But I pressed forward, knowing humans could perform magic if they wanted to. We had energy too, after all. Well, can you show it to me again? Or maybe do it with me or something? Faye tapped their chin, listening to me, before nodding and turning to the side. They pointed their hands out and focused on their fingers, which caused me to turn and do the same. I stared as Faye took a breath and mimicked them perfectly. I was going to do this one way or another, and I got distracted by you guys again. I looked at my hands and tried to focus one more time. I tried to imagine my energy flowing into my hands and forming the green orb, hoping it would spur the action to happen. Come on! Finally, something in my mind clicked. I closed my eyes and focused on my breathing. Feeling the air flow through my body, I began to mentally score my body, taking note of the inhale and exhale. I released before figuring it out. I concentrated on the air in my body, imagining it to be like an energy I imagined myself to have. Like that, I felt very faint waves pulse through my body, confirming that I indeed had energy to use, and a lot of it. I smiled and looked in my hands again, knowing and feeling the energy within me, before committing to call it forward into a green orb. Obediently, my energy began to flow into my hands, making them blow lightly. Before forming an orb just in front of my palms, it began to pulse and grow in size, making Faye look over and gasp.
Holy crap, you're doing it! You're doing it!
Ooh! I'm so glad I'm doing it! Yeah! Oh shit. I grinned from ear to ear as I continued to focus on the orb. Once it became the size of both of my hands, I grasped onto it and pulled it over my head before chucking it into the empty room. Just like Faye's orb, mine popped once it crashed into the floor and formed a large strings and lines of thorny branches waving creepily in the air, releasing a threatening appearance. I couldn't have been prouder of myself. Faye zipped through the air happily, punching their fists into the air.
Yeah! You did it!
Woo! I couldn't help but jump a bit as well. It was tough, but I had managed to pull it off. I felt a slight tingle in my hands and arms from using energy, but I didn't mind. Faye finally floated over to me and grabbed my hands, shaking them in joy.
You're gonna have so much fun training!
I guess I don't have to ask if everything is okay in here.
Faye and I turned our heads to see Diana leaning against the doorway with a small smirk. I smiled a bit and nodded, looking to the magic I had performed that was still wriggling in the center of the room. Faye released my hands and flew over to Diana, grabbing the succubus hands and pulling her into the room. More or less, come here, Diana!
What?
Look! Isn't it so impressive? It's the second best spell I know and she mastered it!
Wait, what? I stared at Faye in shock. This was the second best spell? They really trusted me to learn it, and it was the second best? What was the first? What was the last? Oh shit! Diana observed the branch monster I had essentially summoned and nodded with a chuckle.
I told you, she's a powerhouse of energy. I'm not surprised that she could pull this off.
I felt a bit flattered that Diana believed in me, but Faye flew around Diana and flickered the succubus hair, making Diana jump a bit and glare at the flying demon.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me that she was awesome!
Diana chuckled a bit before letting out a sigh, with a shake of her head.
I'll leave you be then. Have fun, dears.
Faye was grinning from ear to ear as Diana turned on her heels and walked away. As soon as she left the room, Faye spun around me and lifted themselves higher into the air.
Alrighty, let's make you the master of the thorn bush.
I laughed and felt excitement rush through my veins. This was going to be fun. I'm going to help me. A little evil. We spent the entire day focusing on how to make the spell happen quicker, faster, and come more naturally to me. I left exhausted but thrilled at what I was now able to do. I have a cat in my room. And literally in my apartment. I fell onto my bed, exhausted. My body felt complete at the mercy of the fluffy mattress beneath me. Today was rough. Luckily, before I came back to the room, I had been shown bathrooms where I could relieve myself and bathe properly. At least hygiene wouldn't be an issue. I had bathed in crystal clear water before returning to my room and flopping into bed like a bum. Okay, so all that time I must have been holding my bladder just to drain. Ah, it's okay, music the dirt. I heard the door open and close, followed by the soft pattern of labored footsteps, walking around the bed and stopping on the other side. I knew it was Erik, but I turned my head to verify my guess. I was correct. However, I felt my face flush at the sight. Erik was shirtless, and his skin was beautifully covered in water droplets. His hair was damp, and his breathing was labored. He must have trained hard, if not harder than me at least, and bathed right afterwards. Hi.
Good evening, love.
I could tell that he wanted to flop onto the bed and simply pass out, but something held him back. I tilted my head at him, making Erik smile.
I'm going over what happened today.
And?
Do you feel disgusted by me?
I kept my eyes on Erik, letting my mind wander a bit over him. I still loved him and didn't feel the need to yell at him or push him away. I had to assume the spirit was still resting from Sarah's attack. Nope. Erik nodded before climbing into bed and leaning back against the bedpost. So, what do you guys want to do? Should we have him stay where you are? But then that would be like that. Cuddle with him or sit next to him. The chat has gone silent. They're thinking. Cuddle! Alright. I settled close to him and placed my head on his shoulder. Erik smiled and wrapped an arm around me, holding me close.
It's been a long while since I've trained like that.
Since Malik, right? Erik nodded with a smile at me. I remembered Malik, that damnable monster. He had wanted to kill the boys and even kidnap me as bait. Luckily, he didn't last long. During the time he was around, though, Erik had trained hard and done the best he could. I was kind of proud to see him going at it again. I yawned and got ready for bed. There was no there was no use in prolonging sleep. The darkness welcomed me into its embrace as Erik wrapped his arms around me protectively. Huh? The cries of the spirit vibrated through my mind. I knew Erik would take a bit to enter my dreams, but I could only look around as the sound of the spirit whimpering echoed around me in the dark. Hello?
Go away.
Finally, the orb appeared. It wasn't bobbing up and down in the air like it usually had before. It was lying on the ground like a ball. I walked over and crouched before sitting down in front of it. The sound of its whimpers made my heart hurt. Did Sarah's attack really hurt it that badly? Even more than that, it was apparently a child. I feel sorry for it. I'm gonna say I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
I winced a bit at its words. I was trying to be sincere, but I had to assume the spirit was too hurt to care.
Why did you do that?
We just wanted to try and get you out of my body.
Why did you hurt me?
Every word the spirit spoke felt like a knife through my heart. I didn't mean to hurt it, but we had to try. I was certain the intention of the attack was to expel the spirit, not hurt it.
You're just like him.
Like him? You mean Erik?
No. The evil man.
Evil man? I stared at the spirit gently, lifted itself off of the ground, and began to slowly bob up and down in front of me.
The evil man that killed me.
My body froze as I suddenly heard the demon lord's laughter all around me. The voice bounced through the air, sending waves upon waves of fear through my body, in an endless cycle. However, the spirit didn't react. Was the spirit causing the voice? The spirit lowered itself back down onto the ground and laid it still, the purple aura around it still rippling around it.
You're gonna hurt me again.
No, I won't. No, I'm gonna say no. I didn't want to be hurt. Expelling it was one thing. Causing it pain was another. There had to be some way to force it out without hurting it any more than we already did. I felt a hand suddenly place itself on my shoulder, and the demon's lord's voice faded into silence. I quickly turned to see Erik looking down at me with a concerned expression.
Are you all right?
Yeah.
The icky man is back.
Erik ignored the spirit and gently turned my body to face him.
Don't listen to whatever that spirit says. We'll expel it soon enough.
You don't care about her. You just care about babies.
Hello! I stared as instinctively Erik summoned his tendrils. Or is it tendrils? You think it's tendrils? I'm gonna go with tendrils. Ready to attack, but his expressions melted into concern. Something was holding him back, and it made me... Oh my god, I so screwed that up in a whole entire paragraph of just bombing it with a fierce little bull. Anyway, back to the story of trying to do that paragraph again. I stared as instinctively. Oh my god. I stared as instinctively Erik summoned his tendrils, ready to attack, but his expression melted into concern. Something was holding him back, and it made me a bit worried. I think what's making me stop is that I'm reading this and I feel like this is a me instead of a B. Something was holding him back, and it made me a bit worried. Shouldn't it be a me? Shouldn't this be a me? I swear it should be me. Was the spirit telling the truth? The spirit simply faded into the dark without continuing the conflict, leaving us alone. Erik?
Yes, my princess?
Do you want me pregnant? Do you want me to be pregnant? I had to know. He reacted so violently towards the spirit at the mention of children. Erik's face, however, contorted from the concern and melted into a look of confusion.
Where is this coming from?
You want to know, so question, do you know next live event, Millie? You want to know when my next live event is? When? Oh, not really sure. I haven't given much thought yet. It really depends on how tired I am, or... It really depends. And it really depends on how motivated you guys make me. It all depends on you guys. I'm gonna put it up to that. But if you do want me to stream a bit more, let's just say that I will plan that ahead. I know I have a lot of busy times coming up because I have to work. Unfortunately, YouTube is like a fun thing I like to do. Where is this coming from, he says. I just want to know. Erik sighed and nodded, making a small lump in my stomach harden. You really wanted me to be pregnant? Before I could speak, though, Erik raised his head with a kind and soft smile.
I would be happy to have you bear my children and for you to be a wonderful mother, but not unless you want to. You would be the one bearing the burden the longest.
I'll be tweeting it out when I go live stream. And I'll plan it ahead when I live stream. Well, let me just put it that way. So it's good to follow me either on Twitter or Facebook. I'm also still doing a giveaway, guys, but I haven't heard hide or hair from y'all. But that's okay. You know, I can always put that money towards something I'm trying to get. That way I can see you guys better. My heart skipped multiple beats. I was shocked at his words. Erik continued.
In the demon world, it is a regular occurrence for incubi and succubi to breed as often as possible. It's only natural that I'd want children, Princess. However, you are a human, and even more so, you are the one I love. I obey your every command.
Isn't he sweet? Before my eyes, Erik slowly wrapped his arms around my form and kissed my forehead. The warmth of his embrace made my entire body melt, but I wrapped my arms around him in return.
We're not even married yet. We can probably wait until after we say our vows before we think about children.
Such a sweetheart. A small laugh erupted from me as I nuzzled Erik's chest. He was right. We didn't have to think about it now. I shouldn't have let the idea get to me. Right. I nodded in reply, just wanting to completely immerse myself in Erik's arms. The night passed by, and morning rose. To my surprise, I woke up alone. I scanned the room for Erik, but found myself in the room by myself. Erik?
He left to go train with his brother, sweetie.
I turned my head to the sound of Diana's voice. The door was open with Diana standing in the archway, holding a tray of pancakes. My stomach growled at the sight, but something in my heart felt giddy as well at seeing Diana with food.
Here, something warm today.
Thank you. Diana passed me the plates as I began to eat. I knew that I had to work hard myself today, so I needed all of the energy I could get. Diana, however, watched me as I ate. As her gaze got the better of my nerves, I looked at her with a confused look. What?
Do you know the child that's in your body?
I shook my head, making Diana press her lips together in an irritated line. I felt a little bad that I couldn't be of more help, but the spirit didn't have a name, at least not one I know of. Diana shook her head and leaned against the wall, crossing her arms and legs.
Well, we'll be able to expel it soon enough. I have Shadow in charge of figuring out how to sever the ties that spirit has on your body and forcing it free.
My mind instantly froze. My memory brought up images of the crying spirit, and the tears it wept as I had entered my dreams. Would this new method hurt the spirit? Let's ask. Will it hurt the spirit? Diana stared in shock at my question.
You're concerned for the spirit's safety over your own.
Baby? We really heard it last time. It was crying. Diana clicked her teeth and shook her head.
That spirit is clinging to you and using its emotions to make you feel sorry for it. It wants you to love it, so you will let it stay in your body.
Oh dear. Was that really the case? A child who was hurt cries mostly when they are seriously hurting. But what if Diana was right? What if it was trying to manipulate me? There were too many questions in my head. I shook out my thoughts and continued to eat, finishing the pancakes. Diana pushed herself off of the wall and began to leave the room, but stopped to look back at me with a concerned face.
Does the spirit ever enter your dreams?
Yes, it does. Diana stared at me for a moment, most likely trying to form her thoughts into words before speaking. When she did, I couldn't stop myself from going wide-eyed.
You know, there is a way we can stop the spirit from communicating with you until we can expel it.
I stared in shock. Why wasn't this brought up before? Diana grimaced at my expression and sighed.
The spirit is a child, and is most likely repulsed by romance and sex. Am I correct?
Yeah, but what does that have to do with stopping it?
The spirit is feeding on and using your energy. The only way to stop it is to drain yourself of energy.
She wasn't serious, was she? She expected me to give Erik all of my energy? All of the time? What about my training? Oh dear. Diana turned fully to me and crossed her arms.
Essentially, after training, give your remaining energy to your fiancé. Kiss, hug, fuck, it doesn't matter. As long as your energy is completely drained. You'll sleep, and because you'll have no energy, the spirit will be able to appear in your dreams. You'll have an empty sleep.
Woo! Holy! It made sense, but at the same time, I felt a little out of place. Erik needed my energy to survive, yes, but to give him all of my energy? Part of me felt a little excited to do it with. The other side of me felt that it was completely wrong to give energy for that reason. I read over, the first one I see is peanut butter jelly time. Diana shrugged, breaking my thoughts and making me give my full attention once again.
It's up to you. We should have the means to expel the spirit in a day or two.
Thank you. I was curious, however, why Diana was interested in helping me. She was already doing so much for me and the others by helping me get back to the human world. Before Diana could turn to leave, I stood up from the bed. Diana, why are you helping us with this anyway? Diana's gaze burned into mine as her expression softened. Something in her eyes showed a form of weakness, almost reflecting the eyes of an innocent child. What the?
You may not believe it, but I do actually enjoy aiding people. When I can, at least.
I could only stare at Diana in surprise. I could tell she was being genuine just from the sound of her voice, and the look in her eyes made me feel somehow like crying. For some reason, I found myself dropping my empty plate on the floor and rushing to Diana, hugging her tightly. Diana tensed within my arms and stared wide-eyed at me. I couldn't stop myself from hugging her body.
What the?
I wasn't in control of myself. What was going on? Help me?
Dear, what are you?
I didn't speak again. I wanted to, but I couldn't. Was the spirit in control again? Diana finally relaxed in my arms and wrapped her arms around my form, petting over my hair gently.
How pitiful.
With each stroke, I felt anxious. With each stroke, I felt anxiety wane and clear from my body. From where they came, I could never know, but I couldn't do anything but allow it to pass. Whew! Diana seemed to be some form of comfort for the spirit.
However you got into this body, we will free you, child.
I felt myself nod, however I couldn't stop myself from feeling a strong energy pull from my body. Was Diana draining my energy? So, I'm going to go to the chat for this one. Should we pull away, or should we let Diana take our energy? They're thinking about it again. Alright. Hey, okay. Okay. She was taking my energy so that the spirit couldn't control me. I had to let her do it. As my body became weaker and weaker, the control of my body became more and more obtainable. Finally, my body felt light, but I found function in my nerves and limbs to function of my own correlation.
Are you yourself again?
Yes. Diana nodded before releasing me and looking down at me. To my surprise, her eyes were glowing a bright gold, probably from the energy she had taken from me. However, it had to be done for me to regain my body. Diana's eyes returned to their normal red color as she smiled.
For now, rest a bit. You'll be able to regain some energy and be able to train as if nothing had happened. As long as you're not brimming with it, the spirit shouldn't be able to take control of you again.
I nodded in reply, finding myself step back and slip back onto the bed behind me. I held my head, feeling slightly dizzy from the experience. The door opened and closed, so I assumed that Diana had left me alone. My heart felt at peace for some reason, even feeling as weak as I did. Was the spirit appeased with Diana's intervention? I couldn't see why it would have been.
She's very special. That's why.
The echo of the spirit's voice reverberated through my mind, but as I waited for it to explain, no further response came. I let out a sigh. The spirit was gone for now, and I had full control. For now, rest until training. I began to feel a bit elated at the idea of walking to train with Faye. The stress of the morning needed to be burnt away within a workout, and I knew that Faye would teach me something to take my mind off of it. It became like a game, a relief away from the reality of the world. I made my way to the grand hall and stopped at the doorway, looking and taking in the sight of Faye sleeping on the ground, spread eagle style. Oh my god! She's just letting it all out there. It took every ounce of control I had not to laugh hysterically at the sounds Faye was releasing as they slept. I think I already did. I'm sorry. To think such sounds came out of a cute-looking demon like Faye seemed rather bizarre and cartoon-like. Nevertheless, I knew I had to get started on training. The boys were most likely in the midst of their own training as I stood there, so I couldn't exactly spend time watching Faye snore. I stepped quietly into the room, drawing closer to Faye's body as I tried to think of how to wake them up. What do you guys want to do? Scare her? Or wait patiently? Oh my. The thinking has begun again. Okay, we'll scare her. Scare the Tinkerbell! Okay, we'll scare her. Uh-oh. Maybe not. Oh, there it goes. Woo! I tiptoed further into the room, making sure not to wake up Faye as I approached them and circled around them. As I finally stood behind their head, I crouched down and cupped my hands together. Delay reaction there, sorry. Oh dear. Faye jolted up like they had been zapped by a bolt of lightning and shot themselves into the air like a rocket before slamming their head into the ceiling. Oh god. Oh my god, Faye! The temporarily hilarity I felt as I scared Faye quickly vanished as the sound of their head colliding with the ceiling echoed through the room, and the fairy in question quickly descended on their head. Faye, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I needed to wake up anyways.
Faye finally floated to be level with my height, shaking their head and rubbing over where their head collided with the ceiling. Oh, she's gonna have a unicorn lump tomorrow. I bit my lip and rubbed the back of my neck, feeling now very embarrassed and ashamed for what I chose to do. Faye wiggled their arms and let out a tired sigh before blowing raspberries with their mouth and slamming their hands against their cheeks.
I am awake!
Yes, you are! You are so awake. I had to cover my mouth to stop the burst of laughter that wanted to erupt from my gut at the exclamation. Unfortunately, it's already erupting. I can't stop it. Faye became full of energy like it was the flip of a switch. I became mildly jealous of such a feat. Nevertheless, I was eager and ready for my next training session. I placed my arms at my sides and straightened my back, showing the posture of determination and attention. What will we be doing today? Faye looked over at me, looking for some sort of answer in my eyes. Despite showing the sudden energy spark like a light bulb earlier, they remained silent for a moment. Were they not sure? I hoped that today wouldn't be going over the thorn bush again. As much as it was a cool trick, casting a thorn bush into an existence from dawn to dusk, was not as fun as many would imagine it to be, even with hilarious breaks in between. Finally, a glimmer twinkled in Faye's eyes, making them grin from ear to ear at me.
I know what we're gonna do!
Okay! What? With a burst of energy, Faye shot themselves into the air and spun around before flipping upside down in the air towards me.
I'm gonna teach you how to fly.
Oh god. What? Fly? My mind completely blinked on itself. Fly? I was really going to be taught how to fly? I didn't have wings. How the heck was I going to do that? Faye nodded ecstatically before swooping down and flying around me.
It's so easy. You just need to imagine yourself floating in the air and boom, you'll be flying in no time.
I grimaced watching Faye fly around me. I suddenly felt like I was in Peter Pan and had to think happy thoughts and go to the second star to the right to Neverland. Yep. We have gone to Tinkerbell and Peter Pan. Well, Faye was a fairy, so I suddenly imagined you as Tinkerbell, Faye.
Tinker who?
Oh no! Oh my god! Really? We went right to the theme. Right. Demon world, not human world. Never mind. Faye stopped circling me and stared for a moment before shrugging and floating away from me, crossing their arms proudly and physically imitating a sergeant.
Now get those feet off the ground.
I looked down at the ground at my boots-covered feet. Making a thorn bush was one thing. Making myself fly was another. I tried to imagine it, but there was no energy in my body that would respond to such a request. How the heck was I going to fly? We'll try to sprout wings. While I wasn't in a children's book, I was certain that logic would help me out. I had formed an orb and a thorn bush out of thin air. Wings should have been the same deal, right? I closed my eyes and relaxed my body, trying to focus on the sides of my spine. I had to think of anatomy. Where would my wings go? I concentrated on 2 points on my upper back. Guiding my energy to those spots, I began to imagine what kind of wings I would spawn. Angelic? Bat-like? The possibilities seemed endless. A wave of excitement ran through me. This was going to be so cool. However, after almost a full minute of concentration, nothing seemed to occur. Oh, great. We failed. I opened my eyes and looked down at myself. My feet were still on the ground and nothing changed with me. A flash of anger sparked within me. How difficult was it to lift off the ground? How the heck can I fly? As soon as the words burst from my mouth, I shot my hands down in anger, only to be vaulted into the air by some sort of energy force beneath my feet. My body quickly shot up, defying gravity and sending me towards the ceiling. Oh shit. Yeah! Faye quickly zipped over towards me and grabbed me, intercepting my quick ascent to the ceiling while holding me closer to them. It was like being held by a very strong child as their small frame barely lined up from my shoulders to my knees. It hit me for a split moment. Faye was ridiculously small. Nonetheless, I gripped onto Faye, thankful that I wasn't going to crash into the wood above us, and looked around in awe. I was really in the air, flying, or at least being held up by some force. I could feel energy cycle around and through my body, most likely keeping me afloat. I could fly! I looked at Faye with growing excitement of the situation. This was the best feeling ever. Faye grinned before slowly letting me go, proving that they weren't holding me up and that I wasn't imagining anything. Holy crap! I would say holy shit! Pure elation rushed through me as I merely measured the distance between my feet and the floor. I was in the air and slowly bobbing up and down like Faye, floating freely and against gravity. I did it!
You did it! You're flying!
I willed my body forward, feeling the air around me slowly guiding me in obedience. The energy in my body moved me through the space. It was incredibly odd feeling. The air slightly brushed against my entire body, but I was indeed moving forward. A large grin graced my face as I became more determined with my mental commands. I flew towards Faye and circled them. Before suddenly moving around the space, I felt as free as a bird, letting my mind naturally drive me in each direction I wanted to go in.
Here we go! You're getting it!
Whoa! Hoo! That was a weird wahoo coming from me. Out of pure adrenaline, I arched my back and did a flip in the air, before rocketing back forward and gliding over to turn away from the wall. I was quickly approaching. The rush of this new power became addicting, and I wanted to do more with it. Still, I couldn't deny the effects using the power was putting me in. I could feel my energy quickly draining away the longer I remained in the air. A slight tingling sensation went over my legs and hands, reminding me that I had a limited amount of energy. I mentally took note of it and floated over to Faye, putting a lid on my over-enthusiastic glee from the new power and preparing myself for further instruction. Alright, I can fly now. What's next? Faye laughed before planting their hands on my hips.
You really like flying, huh?
I couldn't help but nod. This was the most excitement I had done in the demon world thus far. It was like I was a superhero or something. I barely had to think about staying up to remain in the air, and it was increasingly making me giddy. Faye grinned before circling around me and gesturing to me to follow them.
Then let's have a little fun. Come on!
Within the blink of an eye, Faye zipped out of the room and into the hall. What? Hey! Not wanting to lose them, I willed myself forward. Starting to the chase, I quickly arched around the corner, locking Faye into my sights before building up speed to cut at my increasing distance. Faye was ridiculously fast, and I barely managed to dodge the obstacles in our way, which included other demons and decor.
Ah! Sorry, not sorry!
Despite ducking and dodging each speed bump in the halls, I couldn't help but laugh at the thrill of the experience. Faye looked back at me and laughed as well, but suddenly dropped their expression. With almost a screeching halt, Faye turned their body back upright and stopped, going forward, holding out their hand and stopping me as well. To my surprise, Faye managed to stop me without budging from their place, like they were a perfect brick wall. Ouch! Why did Faye stop? I turned upright as well, suddenly confused. Faye, however, floated forward ever so slightly and looked into a nearby room, peeking over the corner of the barely open doorway. Out of my own curiosity, I did as well, feeling my energy die out and lower me to stand on the floor at last. Oh shit. The room we were peeking into happened to be the war room, and we stared at the back of Diana's head as it looked down at the table in front of her, her hands gripping the edge like angry vices ready to break it. How did Faye know Diana was in here? And what the heck was Diana upset about? I'm sorry, gamer. Why are you crying?
How could a squad of scouts be found and slaughtered by a band of wild harpies?
Diana seemed to answer the question, but my mind began to try and imagine what she had said. Harpies existed? A squad of scouts were out and were killed? I looked up at Faye, seeing them press their lips together in worry as they stared at the succubus. As I turned to look back at Diana, however, I silently gasped and covered my mouth as what I had laid my eyes upon. Around Diana's body, a black and purple fiery aura, flickering frighteningly in the air around her as she dug her nails into the wood of the table.
I'll have to search for it myself. But where to start?
Before I could watch further, suddenly afraid of Diana, far grabbed my shirt and quickly pulled me away. I think that's supposed to be an E. Far grabbed my shirt and quickly pulled me away from the door, making sure to cover the hand I placed over my mouth with their own for safety.
Let's go. We should get back to training.
Without even giving me an explanation or a chance to break free, Faye guided me back to the training hall. My mind became full of questions, but as we returned the training hall, Faye became almost like a military sergeant. I had to practice flying and forming my thorn bush to build my stamina until the end of the day, but then I was too exhausted to ask questions and just returned to my room. I would ask tomorrow. I entered my room thinking about what Diana had said to me that morning. If I drained my energy, then the spirit wouldn't have the power to appear in my dreams. But did I want to do that? Erik appeared soon after, exhausted as ever. I continued to ponder as Erik sat down in bed and stretched.
Another long day. How was your day, love?
My mind continued to ponder. I had to make a choice. Did I care if the spirit appeared in my dreams? Dun 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 dun. Goes to the chat room. I knew that was coming. I was just waiting patiently for it to catch up, and everybody saying, "Give Erik your energy somehow." Oh my gosh. We got mixture going on. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Sleep. Do it. Do it. Sleep. Oh my gosh, you guys are debating. Ah! Okay, so I got don't do it, just sleep, and I got do it. Oh my gosh, hold on. I gotta count you guys. Hold on. Ah! This is a 1, 1, 2, 2. 3, 3. 4, 5. 6, my gosh! Well, I'm sorry to those that said don't, but you've been outvoted because I counted so many of you. It says to give your energy. I needed rest without bizarre dreams. The spirit needed to stop controlling me and enticing me with its emotions. The question was how to give Erik my energy. I could easily sleep with him and give him my energy through sex, but I wanted our sex to be about the mood, not a means to an end. I looked to Erik and stared, taking in every detail of him. Erik?
What is it?
We'll kiss it. Erik seemed confused for a brief moment, but eventually smiled. Crawling towards me, I leaned forward and smiled at Erik's lips, gently pressing against mine. He tasted absolutely sweet against my lips. It was almost intoxicating, the kiss he was bringing me under. I found that to not be fair of him, being that he was naturally an incubus, with the ability to make me swoon. But every time he kissed me, or just his ravishment on me, made me forget the unfairness of the situation and allowed me to simply melt into the moment. I wrapped my arms around and pulled him close to me, causing us to fall back onto the bed with him over top of me. Slowly everything became just about Erik and his love, letting me melt into the sensation we were exchanging. Erik, however, took the moment to pull away softly and stared down at me, looking for permission to continue in my eyes. I knew what I was getting into, so I smiled and pulled him back down to capture his lips again. It was sweet to know how considerate he was about the situation, but I was okay. I let myself go into the moment, closing my eyes and wrapping my legs around Erik. He seemed to get the picture, wrapping an arm behind my arched back and scooting us up to lay with my head in the pillows. Our kisses only intensified as Erik slowly gripped my hips, and ground himself between my legs, making me let out a gasp and moan against his lips, causing him to chuckle in reply. I could feel his desire to keep going clear as day between us. He became slow, almost tortuously, as he began to strip himself and me down to become bare to each other. I felt the cool air rush across my skin, making me shudder beneath him. Each kiss he planted on my skin caused a ripple of pleasure to flow through me. It was hard to hold back the moans wanting to escape me, but I allowed a quiet handful out who enticed Erik to do more, go further with our foreplay. Looking up at him, his eyes began to glow a familiar gold tint, allowing the fire within my core ignite and burning heavily. I felt my mind become only filled with thoughts of Erik and screaming his name as passionately as I could. The entire castle would know exactly was receiving my love and whose love I was taking during the night. There wasn't a need for words to be exchanged as Erik's slow smile grew into a passionate and lustful smirk. His tongue memorized every sweet spot on my body, and he used his knowledge to make my beneath him, urging me to beg for more. My body was slowly pleading with my mind to let me release my desire and craving out so Erik could satisfy me. However, I wanted to fully give everything, and that meant taking things slowly and steadily. Erik seemed to understand as he slowly built our foreplay up to where we couldn't even take it anymore, and all we could think about was making love. As we finally gave in, we were both gifted with swift gasps of pleasure moans at the sensation. The air was hot and steamy as we panted and rode out our lovemaking, becoming lost in each other's eyes As my mind began to recount everything I loved about Erik, he was devoted, delicate, but at the same time he was everything my body desired. I could only imagine the same thoughts running through his mind as he captured my lips in his and swallowed my moans as they rushed out of my throat. As well as we apex, our fingers dug into each other, desperate to ride through our high and simmer into a gorgeously placed afterglow. Our breath and heartbeats synced as we were left staring deep into each other's eyes, exhausted but full of love. I love you, my prince. The feeling of joy that rushed through me caused me to nuzzle into Erik's warm embrace, making him chuckle and kiss over my head despite being tired himself. Still, the aura around our bodies was perfect for a peaceful passage to sleep. It was surprisingly a peaceful night. And with that, guys, I'm going to say that I'm going to stop the stream. So you're going to have to wait until part 6 comes out. So I'm sorry. But thank you guys so much for coming out to my live stream. Sorry it was such short notice. Next time around, just check my Facebook or tweets. I will be posting those of what day I will be streaming again. So, in the meantime, guys, I'll catch you guys later. And I'll talk to you guys later, too.